afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott Leeser. I'm a patient advocate for Mended Hearts, and we're really happy that you're joining us today for what's going to be a great conversation on one of our legislative priorities this year, the Carroll Act. I'm joined today by one of a very special guest, Claire Osborne, Senator, Senior Legislative Assistant for Representative Barr. She's a graduate of Virginia Tech University and a current student at Catholic University Law School. She handles health appropriations, and equine issues for the Congressman. Claire, it's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the promotion to senator, too.
Yes. So for anyone who may not be aware, can you just give us a little bit of background and context to what led Representative Barr to introduce the Carroll Act?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, the Carroll Act was developed out of an unexpected tragedy that my boss and his family faced. So Congressman Barr unexpectedly lost his wife, Carol, to sudden cardiac arrest on June 16th, 2020. She was only 39 years old. So the medical examiners and doctors that the congressman spoke to told him that Carol died of a fatal heart attack, likely brought on by a ventricular arrhythmia. And she did have an underlying condition that she and the congressman were aware of, called mitral valve prolapse or floppy valve syndrome. And she was diagnosed with that at a very young age when she was in 7th grade. She was told to monitor it, not to be too concerned, that it was essentially a benign condition that only results in sudden cardiac death in about 2% of the cases. So the congressman, after this tragedy, started discussing with top cardiologists, experts, researchers, etc., and learned that there was a disconnect and there were gaps in answering the question of what factors place Carol in that 2% category, or 0.2%, category versus the 99.8% category of people that just live with this condition and live regular lives. So that's why he was inspired to introduce the Carroll Act in February, Heart Month of 2021.
That's great. I think a lot of patient advocates get involved because of their own experience as a heart patient, undergoing maybe a sudden cardiac arrest episode or a heart attack or heart surgery. And so I think that what's great about this story is that Congressman Barr is just like us in terms of taking an episode of our life that's very impactful, a health episode, and turning it into advocacy. And so I think we can all kind of relate to that. So after kind of identifying that there were gaps in, the medical knowledge around mitral valve prolapse, he then wanted to kind of draft the Carroll Act to help address those gaps, correct? So what would the
Correct.
Carroll Act do if enacted into law?
Yeah, so the initial charge of the Carroll Act is to better equip the medical community with the resources needed to develop predictive models and inform communities so that others don't have to experience this tragedy. Specifically, kind of where the federal government can play in this, the Carroll Act authorizes a grant program through the NHLBI to encourage research on valvular heart disease. So I'm sure everyone's aware MVP is a type of valvular heart disease. And so the research would help to identify those who are at high risk of sudden cardiac death from valvular heart disease and develop these models, which essentially come from other outside groups and stuff like that, but the government can provide the research. Additionally, it instructs the CDC to conduct programming and raise awareness regarding symptoms of valvular heart disease and effective strategies for preventing sudden cardiac death.
That's great. That's great. So utilizing some of the federal resources that already exist within programs at the NIH, the nation's largest biomedical research institution, CDC, which does surveillance research, better understanding, how the prevalence and incident rate of certain conditions, kind of utilizing those and kind of directing them towards valvular disease.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And so, I think one of the things that I'm blown away by is just the amount of support that Representative Barr has gotten. So, what kind of support has he gotten so far, and where are you, particularly in the House?
Yeah, we've had an incredible amount of bipartisan support specifically, which I think is testament to the legislation and the congressman's story in a time where you see a lot of tension in Washington. So the Carroll Act passed the House on December 8th, I believe, 2021, and we had 180 co-sponsors at the time of passage. Again, bipartisan, friends and others from both sides of the aisle. We had a great co-lead in Congresswoman Rice from New York, um, and the congressman, she in combination with the congressman's good friend and colleague, Mr. Guthrie from Kentucky, kind of helped us pass this through Energy and Commerce and get it onto the floor under suspension of the rules. And I think also the floor debate, I mean, it was pretty one sided in support of the bill was a testament to it as well. Usually for these suspensions, you don't see very many speakers, usually just the bill sponsor. And we had a large number of members come out and speak in support of the bill and the congressman and his story.
That's fantastic. Maybe we can pull that video and share it with our community. I think that would be impactful as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it passed the Energy and Commerce Committee. It went to the floor, had unanimous consent, basically passed through the suspension of the rules. And so now you're looking at the Senate, and it's a little
Mhm.
bit different story over there. Folks probably don't have the same kind of connection to Representative Barr and his wife as they do in the House. So where do things stand in the Senate right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So Senator McConnell, who did know Carol and obviously knows the congressman well, and Senator Sinema, who was a congressional classmate when she was in the House with Congressman Barr, introduced the Senate companion to the Carroll Act. So they're kind of helping us lead the way over there. The bill is currently in the Senate Help Committee, which is chaired by Congresswoman Murray from Washington State and Senator Murray from Washington State and Senator Burr from North Carolina. So we're working with their teams to kind of get it through Senate procedure. I'm not an expert on Senate procedure, so relying on our Senate colleagues over there to kind of help us usher that through.
Great, great. So, the Mended Hearts is a peer-to-peer support group, have 70,000 members nationwide. The Action Network is the advocacy programming around Mended Hearts. We're having a fly-in May 4th that people can join. And so, what can folks do who are watching this event or maybe watching it later on as a recording do to help push Congress to pass the Carroll Act this year?
Yeah, so our focus is really on the Senate. So reaching out to your senators, and if you're inclined to reach out to Senator Murray and Senator Burr's office of the Help Committee to really get show the support and get this pushed through, I think would be most helpful um, to get this done.
Great, great. Um, as you meet with constituents, I think probably daily, right? And probably at
Yeah.
this point, virtually, a little bit maybe in the office. What advice, and I'm going a little off script here, but what advice, I'm going to give you a softball question, would you give to advocates as they meet with their offices and congressional staff like you, when they're meeting with them, like what's most impactful to you? Is it that they know all the procedures, or is it really that they share their own personal story?
Yeah, I think it's tying it back to the personal story. Particularly, we like to have a connection for why we're doing things back to our district or back to the states in terms of the senators. So telling your personal story and connecting it back to that is really important. And I know my boss takes that into consideration. So I'd assume that others do as well.
Great, great. Well, Claire, Mended Hearts is really thankful to be a part of this effort along with Congressman Barr, and hopefully we can help with our advocates bring more awareness to this bill, especially in the Senate, and see it pass this Congress. I know this was kind of a quick lunch and learn, but I think everybody at this day and age with virtual Zoom fatigue will appreciate their time back. But I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us walking through the Carol Act, and look forward to continue to working with you in the office on how we can help move this through Congress this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. And for Action Network members, if you are not yet, if for Mended Hearts members, if you're not a member of the Action Network yet, we're going to put in a little bit of a tag here. You can sign up for the Action Network at any time. We have regular trainings, we have regular action alerts that go out to our members, and we hope that you'll join us in these efforts to help pass the Carol Act as well as our other legislative priorities. So. Claire, I really appreciate your time again today, and we look forward to continuing to stay in touch.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.